They only went 7-6 last year, but excitement is high for Boston College going into 2025.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider. Thank you all who have made us your go-to Boston College podcast. Today, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of news items, including a former Penn State quarterback coming to Boston College as an analyst. We're going to look at two teams on campus now that are number one in the country. We're going to look at returning production for BC football and season tickets. They're gone. So let's kick it off with the big news. Now, if you were any other program, season tickets selling out would be pretty cool. But we all know, we've all been to Alumni Stadium when it's a quarter full, half full, and everyone's mocking Boston College for not selling out. Well, on Monday, Boston College football announced that all season tickets for the 2025 season have been sold. Now, there's a wait list for this. You can sign up to get on a wait list. Think of that. Boston College football is now on a wait list. That's pretty cool. So this is big. Boston College's attendance from Jeff Hafley in 2023 to Bill O'Brien in 2024 went up 9% according to D1 Ticker. They went up from 36,000 to 39,000, almost 40,000 for BC. So it was a big increase, and it's carried over. So even if the results, you only won 7 games, but you won 6 of your 7 home games last year. You only lost that one game to Louisville. You win all those games. The vibes are good around this program right now. BC fans are feeling excited. They want to get there. There's a huge home slate coming up, and these season tickets are selling. So when you look at the home slate, just think about the games that you're going to get to see. Clemson, Notre Dame, and SMU, 3 playoff teams, including on top of that, Cal for the first time, and I think forever. Maybe they've played there at home before. You'll probably yell at me in the comments that I messed it up. And Georgia Tech, who is a good team with Haynes King, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So it's a great home lineup. So I can understand why there may be people out there that have renewed their season tickets or added new seats to their packages to get more family there, because it's going to be a hot ticket to go see some of these games, to see Clemson, to see Notre Dame. You also have to be a little bit skeptical too, that there is people that, kind of beat the system. So you got to imagine, for instance, our friends down in South Bend, that they are a big, they're going to, all the guys over in Southie that really want to come to this game, they're not going to be able to get the tickets singles. That's not how it works. So to jump the line, they'd be best off just buying season tickets because it's BC. It's not that expensive. Like, was it $500-600? I mean, going to a Notre Dame game is going to be expensive anyways. And then just selling off all the other tickets on the secondary market. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that. So I'm not going to sit here and say that this is all because of Boston College, a renewed interest in the program. I think there's a big part of that. But I also think that there is Clemson fans, Notre Dame fans, those two schools specifically, that are going to buy season tickets to get the seats and then sell off the other tickets. It's going to happen. We'll see how the secondary market looks when these games get closer. But even if it is, just looking at the increase, as I said, from almost 40,000 up to almost 40,000 tickets per game, that's still progress, because it was only 10 years ago that you had Adazio, 12 years ago Spaz, and even there's a lot of folks out there that did not like Jeff Hafley, and it kind of chased them away. The good feelings around BC are back, so people are buying seats. Now, if you want to get single game seats, They're going to be going on sale soon, they said in the email. However, the premium games are going to be going on sale. There's like some sort of priority system, and I'm not sure what that is. Don't ask me. I don't work for BC. They're going to be a priority system for the Notre Dame, SMU, and Clemson games. So those are going to happen as well. Now that you got people in there, you got your seats. There's still things you got to change. First of all, you got to make alumni a little more inviting. For me, this is just my perspective on things. When I'm in there and a fan, I get now I'm up in the press box, so I'm all comfy up there. But when I take my family, that first week, those metal benches turns that place into a sauna. I hate the first couple games of the season, specifically when I bring my kids there, because it feels like about 150 degrees in there because those aluminum benches just radiate heat. The turf radiates heat, and I'm sure it's not fun for the players either. We'll love to see bench covers, things like that. I know it does a little bit for the sound. It changes things, and Alumni Stadium has a cool aura to it with that piece. But that would be one thing. Additionally, you have sellouts now. If I'm going to imagine that most of these games are going to be complete sellouts. Will BC game ops, and that's the whole picture, be ready for these games? They were last year, but these are going to be crazy busy. Will the concession stands be ready? Beer lines, they're all crazy, right? For these games, it's going to be a lot of pressure putting onto them. I would love to see some changes made. What happened with that email, right? You guys all got that email, right? If you're a BC ticket holder about the changes to Alumni Stadium, when is that going to happen? There's lots of little things that still could be going on, but this is a great first step. It's February 24th, and season tickets are gone. It makes BC feel like a bigger program, doesn't it? Like the fact that we're 6-7 months away from the start of the 2025 season, and you already have this great news about the future of your program. That's a big step. So good. We'll see how much those other sites are going to have extra BC tickets flooding the market. But you know what? Tickets are tickets. We'll see who has them. In a moment, let's talk a little bit about returning production. I want to look at Bill Connolly's latest statistical analysis on BC, and it talks about the returning production rankings for schools. And I want to look at where BC stands. We'll get into all of that in just a moment. March basketball is here, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you can pick more or less on at least 2-player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's fast, easy, and keeps every game exciting. With me, building the lineups is great. I love this week to looking at Jason Tatum for more than 29 points and Anthony Davis for more than 12 rebounds. I love how I can make my picks in less than 60 seconds because I don't have time for stuff. I like to do it quick. Prize Picks gets you set up. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Welcome back. Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. If you've not checked out this is the third episode this week because I did a later episode on Saturday last week. Check them all out. Go back after you're done with this episode. Go on your YouTube, your Spotify, whatever you're using for a podcast to happen. Just check them out. Just give them a listen. If you like what I'm giving you, make sure you're listening to all the episodes. Become an everydayer, someone who listens to my 5 shows a week and becomes part of our everyday army. I hope you guys take me up on that offer. Now, Bill Connolly is a statistical guru. This is a guy that used to work for SB Nation and got his name with his SP Plus rating system. For BC fans, it usually is something that irritates the heck out of them because SP Plus usually is brutal to Boston College. But Bill usually is pretty good with his ratings. And at least with the upper tiers teams, he's usually dead on. So he does more than just SP plus. On Monday, he released his returning production ratings. Basically, he took the offense and the defense and decided how much percentage of returning snaps are coming back to that team. Returning is it? I think it's returning production snaps. So Boston College came in at number 32 out of 136 teams. They are a very experienced team. Now you look at this roster and you see what I mean. You really didn't lose anyone in the transfer portal that was taking up significant season long snaps. Ryan Turner was fine. He took up some snaps at the end of the season. Thomas Castellanos was a quarterback that played for most of the beginning of the season. But other than that, everyone else that entered the portal mostly were either role players that really didn't see the field or depth guys. Like, so they didn't lose anyone there. We know the players that they lost to graduation. There's a few big ones, right? Cam Horsley, defensive tackle. Donovan Ezeiruaku, your starting edge who played literally almost every down. Neto Ekpala, more like 40%, 40% at times. You lost Joe Marinaro and Cam Arnold and Kai Robichaux and Trayshawn Ward. Those are the big ones. So on defense, they have BC coming in at 29th in terms of defensive snaps returning. That makes most sense. Like your secondary, Kari Johnson's another one too, but your secondary is mostly all coming back. You got guys like KP Price who played every snap coming back. You have guys like Davion Crouch who played almost every snap. Max Tucker, same thing. So you see what I mean? Like there's a lot of continuity with that defense. Now, that being said, snaps don't paint the entire picture of everything. You lost Donovan Ezeiruaku. That paints a very different story of what your defense is going to look like than just snaps. It's just what it is, right? Like when you lose a guy his caliber, or a guy like, remember years ago with like Luke Kuechly, when you lose a play like that, it makes a huge impact. So I take this with a grain of salt because losing someone like Joe Marinaro, and I love Joe Marinaro, and he's, Joey Pasta Sauce is one of my favorite players at the end of last year, but losing him is a different caliber of losing production than Donovan Ezeiruaku. Just the way it is, right? On the offensive side of the ball, I'd argue you lost your two offensive linemen that I think are big. Drew Kendall, Ozzy Trapillo, both are big losses. You can't get around losing those two offensive linemen. Jack Connolly stings a little bit because he was producing. He was, a serviceable offensive lineman. And everything else I feel is replaceable. Like Kai Robichaux, and I'm not bashing him. I'm just saying you probably have guys that can do what he does. Same thing with Trayshawn Ward. I think you have guys on your roster. So when you return back on offense 62% of your snaps, you're in good shape. You look at who's in front of BC. If you're curious, if you're looking at the schedule, what teams have the most returning snaps? Number one in the country is Clemson. Clemson's got a crazy returning rate. Offense, they're number one in the country with 86% of their snaps returning. And I don't know Clemson's team very well because they didn't play BC last year, so I didn't know the ins and out. I can't even think of who they're losing because every position that they have, I feel like they're coming back. Probably that running back. I think their running back probably left. And they're seventh in the country in defense. Additionally, Stanford is returning a lot of their players, so maybe they will get better. Sometimes continuity is a good thing, but they are 13th in the country. Then you have to go all the way down to 26 and 27 for Georgia Tech and Pitt. So those are the teams that are ahead in Michigan State's 30. So there's a bunch of teams, about half of your schedule is ahead of you. Go to the bottom. Let's have some fun here. Who's near the bottom of this list? And I think the lowest team BC plays, because it's only FBS, I think the lowest teams in terms of returning production is Syracuse. And Syracuse comes in at number 90. They don't play, I think they're the lowest ACC team too. So they're down there. Connecticut is 74. So, there Cal's 83. So there's a good chunk that are below you. So if you're looking just at production, that's where BC's at. Top 30, that's good. You know, and honestly, you can move around the numbers any way you want. On one hand, you could say, well, a bunch of the snaps they lost was Thomas Castellanos, and who cares, right? The team's better without that. But on the other hand, that small percentage you lost on defense is Ezeiruaku. That's bad. So it's just numbers, and numbers can be manipulated any way you want them to. But it's interesting that BC is so high with returning snaps, and I think that's a piece of that's a credit to the staff, because it's so easy in this current world to have guys that produce at a school like Boston College and have them say, "Oh, I'm doing great. I'm going to enter the transfer portal so I can go get my money from Auburn or the Gators or whatever." And Bill O'Brien and his staff kept their production intact. As I said before, Ryan Turner in the offseason was literally the only player that you lost that was significant at all. And I don't even think I wouldn't even consider him significant, but like a player that took up decent snaps. That was it. You look at what other teams had lost in the portal, some other teams got savaged, but not Boston College. And that's a credit to the staff that worked on that. Now, in our final segment, let's get away from football for a second. Give you some really good news about BC sports, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Welcome back, Locked On Boston College. AJ Black. Thank you all who have listened, and thank you all who have checked out Locked On ACC with Kenton Gibbs and Alex Dono. They talk all ACC sports all the time, and you can check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, two teams right now on campus are the number one teams in the country. That is incredible. And it's not the first time this year, but I wanted to bring it up today because they're both deeper into their seasons, and both are setting themselves up, hopefully, for title runs. And those two teams are men's hockey and women's lacrosse. Now, men's hockey, obviously, the downs in the last month was losing the Beanpot Championship to BU. They also lost, was it 2 or 3 in a row, but they just went out and swept UVM. They get UNH next weekend. They are set themselves up in the pairwise to be the top team in the country. That's good. Are they perfect? No, I don't think they're a perfect team, but there's not any team in college hockey right now that are perfect. So men's hockey's there. And then we also should be bringing up the women's lacrosse team, because the women's lacrosse team is undefeated. They, on Wednesday last week, absolutely smoked UMass 22-5, and then opened up their ACC schedule with a 19-10 win over number 21 Duke. Other than that Northwestern game, they have been an absolute wagon out there. This is great. Like, I'm telling you, when you put the money into a Boston College program and treat them like a big deal, they will be a big deal. Women's lacrosse has been absolutely incredible for the last, 7, 8 years, because you got a good leader in there in Acacia Walker-Weinstein who can recruit her butt off, and they've brought in talent after talent, whether it's recruiting talent or transfers like Charlotte North a couple years ago, or I think Rachel Clark's a transfer too. You bring in all this talent, and you all of a sudden now have the premier lacrosse team in the country. I say this because there's other teams that just can't get that to that level, and that's football too. But I look at a team like basketball. Again, I'm not going to. This is not AJ just slamming basketball constantly, but there's no reason that they can't be competitive. But let's leave that out. I'm not going to go down that road. I won't do it. I wanted to talk because as a alumni who went to Boston College, who got married at BC, I got married at St. Ignatius Church. I did my wife's maternity photos there. I've been a season ticket holder before I covered this team. School means everything to me. To see them win on the rink and in the field for lacrosse and hockey puts pride into this program, to this school. They both deserve an immense amount of credit and your support. If you've not checked out a women's lacrosse game, go check them out. When it warms up and they can get into Alumni Stadium, those games are can't miss events. If there's not a spring game this year for football, we don't know what's going on there yet. Go to the women's lacrosse game instead. Treat that like it. It's way more enjoyable than watching the spring football game. I'm gonna tell you that right now. So, just shout out to both of those programs. Greg Brown and Akasha Walker Weinstein. They are doing an amazing job, and they're both setting up. So, cross your fingers. How cool would that be? 2 national championships in 1 year. We'll have to wait and see. One game at a time. That's where we're going to go from here. Now, let's wrap things up with one last little news item. If you were on Eagle Insider this weekend, you would have seen that I had a post up, and I want to shout out. I had a reader. I don't want to give his name out because I don't know if he wants to be known, but I want to shout him out. Hopefully, he's listening. Who put me onto a news item that I had not heard of. And now, if you know who Bill O'Brien was before he got to BC, one of his first stops was at Penn State. And when he was there, he took over after Joe Paterno and the whole scandal. And he turned Matt McGloin, a quarterback, into one of the most mid quarterbacks in the Big Ten to Big Ten Player of the Year. He was an incredible athlete and ended up having a great season under Bill O'Brien. It's one of those stories that makes you understand why Bill O'Brien can be such a great coach. Well, someone sent me a message. McGloin had obviously his career in the NFL never happened, or if it did, I think he was a backup. But he ended up getting into politics. He was a city councilman, I think, or something like that. Well, this person texted me is like, hey, he's going to be resigning because he's going to be taking a job at Boston College. I said, cool. And then I hear stuff all the time. Some people tell me things that are true, some are not, but I keep my ears open. If you ever want to let me know something you heard, you can always DM me. I'm fine with that. But what was it? 24 hours later, one of the Pennsylvania newspapers it has an article out that he just resigned, and it says in there that he's joining Boston College. Now, I tried to get it confirmed, did not, because, of course, Pete Thamel gets it confirmed. And Pete put out that he's going to be Matt McGloin's going to be at Boston College as an offensive analyst. Now, this isn't a huge deal. If you followed what the analyst roles have been, they're like extra staff. Will Blackman was a defensive analyst last year, and he wasn't a huge factor. He's not like a huge recruiter. They don't do recruit. I mean, I think they can, but they don't really do recruiting. They're just, they're on the field. They're watching things. They're helping with film. It's a nice get. Matt McGloin, from what I heard from my sources, was on campus in December when BC was getting ready for the Pinstripe Bowl, visiting Boston College. And word was that he talked and said that he wanted to get back into coaching or wanted to get into coaching. So he gave up this whole career in politics to take a job as an offensive analyst. Hopefully he gets enough to live off of, because I know a lot of these like lower jobs don't pay all that well, but hey, it's a cool story. It's one of Bill O'Brien's first like success stories. He's coming to BC to help and get his coaching career started. So that's an addition. I talked about yesterday about the building of staff. This was one more. But you lost. Will Blackman's gone. He's now coaching high school, I think. And Doug Marone's gone. So you've lost a few, but that's kind of how that job works. Is like you're never going to keep the same guys around. Rob Chudzinski's not going to go anywhere because his kid's on the team and he's a local guy. But most of these other guys are going to keep roving in and out. So Matt McGloin added to BC. Hopefully we'll have more news tomorrow. If we don't, we'll continue previewing for the spring camp. I'll have more talk about that. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all who have subscribed, and make sure to hit that like and subscribe button before you leave. Check us out on YouTube if you want to hear my sultry voice and great face. Come check over there. Thank you all, and thank you for making us your first listen at Locked On Boston College, your team every day.